everyone, my name is Becc Sahasrara and welcome once more to the Becc Sahasrara Podcast. Thank you for being here. I am a freedom mentor for women. I am a psychic magic mentor, an all-round spiritual goddess who is here to help you embody the woman that you are meant to be. The powerful, authentic, beautiful, knowing she's beautiful, wealthy, soul-rich woman that you naturally are. So, here we are once more, and today I want to speak with all of you about dating. Okay, because within this concept, it is not a simple concept. This is really about feminine and masculine dynamics and how to retain your feminine energy within the context of dating so that you can attract a masculine man. But also remembering that attracting a man or that goal of having a relationship or whatever you're looking for is simply a side bonus, because the point is actually for you to become your highest version of you. And a lot of people are talking about the term at the moment, a high value woman or a high value man. And that is the perspective that I am speaking about today. But first I want to identify, what does a high value woman mean? And we must understand that this varies between person to person. But for me, being a high value woman is really about the standard and the quality of person that I am. Am I being my highest version? Am I being my queen self? Am I actually embodying the goddess in every area of my life? This is what brings me into a state of value, in that I am a worthy and valuable person. So that's another part of it. I know that I am absolutely valuable and worthy as just a person. And yes, I will compliment any beautifully lucky man's life, but it's not really about that. That is a side effect. For me to be a high value woman, it is calling myself constantly into the highest expression of myself. That means that my intentions are pure. I'm aligned with my higher self and I'm living from her and I'm living from her perspective. Intentions are pure, boundaries are strong, worth is high. I'm nurturing myself. I'm loving myself, because that is how you actually become the high value woman. You will not get there. You will not become the woman that a high value man is looking for example, if you do not love yourself. So again, it is not about that, but we are going to talk about that as well, because dating and relationship and the dance of masculine and feminine is such a beautiful container and sacred container for you to weave in more of your feminine essence within you. And equally for men as well. And all of us should be seeking to become the highest value person that we can be, And if you do have a soul-driven motivation that you would like to have a high value man, then that can be a supportive motivation for you to become the best version of yourself, So for me, part of the journey. So what I mean is, obviously, you have an intention to be your best self, to love yourself, to be in full self-worth. But part of the motivation for me to take the actions and do the things is also that I have a soul intention to eventually, when it is right, marry a man of high value. And I recognize that in order for me to attract that vibrationally into my experience, I have to be the high value woman. I have to be the highest version of me. Anything that you want in a partner, you have to become. Anything, any quality, all of those things, you have to actually become. And so for me, after my last relationship, which was just the final straw of I am no longer going to participate in connections like this where I am not being treated to the highest standard. And it really was a catalyst and a venue for me to actually unhook and clear out all of the things that meant that I attracted a negative experience. If you are attracting men that you actually don't want, or that your heart doesn't want, or that they don't treat you well, You have to look within yourself, because there was a period for me where I was accepting behavior that is completely intolerable, completely unacceptable. And I was accepting this behavior. Why? Because of my long lost traumas, of course, because of my low self-worth that I had. And I remember sitting down to my spirit guides after yet another fight in this relationship and saying, why did I attract this man again? Like this kind of person with this kind of patterning. And they said, because you never asked for more. You never asked for more. And that is true. I spent so long of my life in any kind of masculine relationship, whether it was a friendship or anything, asking a man to change. That was kind of the dynamic that I had, and waiting for them to treat me right and making myself whatever to be lovable enough to finally be treated right. But that is such fucked up trauma thinking that in hindsight I see is so clearly just like ridiculous. But that is the nature of when you are in attachment. When we're in attachment, and that's what relationship is, it's psychological attachment. All of our attachment foundations that were set up when you were small by your primary attachment figure, which is typically your parents or primary caregiver, that is how your nervous system is set up to respond to intimacy and connection. And that is your vibrational set point as well until you do the healing to change your vibration. And so I just perfectly kept manifesting men who were completely emotionally unavailable, who couldn't meet my needs, who were disrespectful, who were even abusive. And, you know, this typically they had an avoidant attachment, which triggered my more at that time disorganized attachment. And it's just like toxic trauma replay of the relationship that I, as a little girl, had in some ways with my father. Now, my relationship with my father was very like fucked up in that he was a complete pedophile and, you know, abused me a lot. But because you are in an attachment situation, you know, there was this little part of me that just wanted him to love me and always unconsciously trying to figure out how can I get him to love me. But sister, we don't want to do that in our relationships as adults. You don't want to do that. You got to love you first. And when you love you first, you won't do that. You won't participate in that. And so that's where I am at now. And I'm so excited to tell everyone and share with you about the dating experiences that I have had since ending my previous relationship. Because there's so much juicy stuff in there. It's just like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe some of the things that happened in this one night, okay? Because I've been like off the market, healing from a breakup and everything. And then, okay, here we go. Recently, I went to a spiritual dating event, which is a spiritual speed dating event in my local area. And if you're watching the YouTube, you're going to see a cat right now who I'm going to lovingly move. And if you're listening, just imagine that there was a cat coming to talk about dating with you, because there he was, but he's gone now. So I went to a spiritual speed dating event, and it was my first kind of like, I'm back out there, I'm fully healed, I've got my standards, I've got my value, I'm a goddess, off I go. And I went with the intention of just like, you know, it's more for me just to go and have the confidence to talk to people and get over any fear of like, oh, it's scary to talk to strangers, and those first foot in the dating arena. And if my, you know, high value, beautiful husband would like to appear, he can, but otherwise I'm also interested in just being present in this evening and just being curious and open to possibility and having fun and, you know, learning about my own confidence, practicing that confidence and things like that. So it was just a very beautiful experience that I had intended. And what an experience it was. Okay, ladies, I can't believe how much I got out of one experience. It's so like beautiful, and it explains why like Spirit told me to a little while ago to start talking about spiritual dating. And I was like, what? Like me? But here we are. So we went to this event, and the core part of it was that the girls were sitting down and the men would rotate through meeting the girls. And there was a host woman who, when the man sat down, she would give you a question to discuss, rather than just having a random conversation. You were a bit guided by these questions. And she would give a question like, one of them was like, what's your deepest fear? And then one of them was like, what are your values? What's your sexual flavor? She had very interesting questions. It's so interesting because she at the beginning said she wasn't going to talk about, or she didn't recommend talking about really deep stuff on the first date. But then she asked questions like, what was your childhood like? And I said to one man, and I recognized that I would have said something a bit more elegant at the time. I said to him, well, I don't know what to say because my childhood was really traumatic and I don't think it's first date material. And he was like, you can just not answer the question. I was like, oh yeah. So we were sitting in this beautiful, it's kind of like a bar club thing, but it's one of those nice ones. Like it's not seedy or anything. It's kind of hipster. And yeah. Okay. So the men that came through, I got so many interesting comments. This is the main thing I want to talk about. I got so many interesting comments and treated in a way that I've not really been treated. So one of the comments that I got was this guy sat down and he's like, hi, can I give you my impression of you? And I was like, okay. And in my mind, I was like, yes, because I will talk about it on my podcast. So, and then he goes, you seem like a delicate flower. You are just, you're just a delicate flower. And, I think he too said something like, I can't really feel your energy. If you seem reserved because you're so like a delicate flower. He said delicate flower like 4 times. And, I was just like, I don't really know what to do with this information. So I was just like, yeah, I sort of absorbed it for a minute. And then I said to him, I can see how you might think that. But I'm also very strong. I said, I'm also very strong. And it's true because I know that I have a very small frame. I'm like, there's that Shakespearean quote that I love. She is tiny, but she is fierce. And I think that that's me. And, there is a delicate constitution to my energetic field, honestly, that I think that people can sense at times. It's very fine. My energy field is quite fine. And I said to him about my energy being reserved, I said, it's really, really loud in here and there's a lot of energy and I tend to kind of draw my energy in a little bit, which is true. It was an okay bar place, but it was so loud. When you're somewhere and you're just like, hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks. How are the kids? And you're just like yelling at each other. And then you go home and your throat is sore and you're like, I wasn't even at a concert. I was just trying to have dinner. Oh gosh, this is why I don't go out to places like this very much or for long periods. Except specifically to dance or something like that. So, yeah, and I said that to him. A different man, he sat down, and I can't remember if it was when he first sat down or when he was leaving. He was like, you are so elegant. You are such an elegant, beautiful woman. You are the most elegant woman here. And he kind of said it as he got up to leave, and he didn't give me his number. And I was like, okay, well, goodbye. Like, I don't know. Because there was a thing where the guys and the girls, we had our numbers on a piece of paper. And if at the end of the conversation, if I recall correctly, she said the guys should give their number if they want to continue the conversation or, go for a coffee or have a date. And he just said that, like, this beautiful complimentary thing, and then he left, and I was like, all right then. And then there was another gentleman who, again, I think it was when he was leaving or something, and he was like, he was like, you have great posture. You have really great posture. You're very, and like kind of sat up and did the posture. And I was just like, okay, thank you. Because I actually have been working on my posture, which is nice because I used to have very terrible posture, especially in my, like, until my mid 20s, which is due to a connective tissue disorder that I technically have, which means I'm hypermobile, and it's very common for that posture to be a challenge. It takes more energy and effort physically and musculature for me to hold myself upright. I also have some blood flow things that mean that my body wants to kind of slump forward to allow more blood flow. But it's fine. It's fine. It's just the way that my body is built. And I have been very much working on my posture. So that was a very, very nice compliment. And another man said to me, he was like, you're very beautiful. You're very beautiful. And he said, I think you're going to be very successful in life. And then he left it there. And then another man was like, I'm not going to give you my number because you're too good for me. You're too good for me. And I was like, all right. Like, I don't know if he was just like awkwardly trying to justify in a complimentary, nice guy way that he didn't want to give me his number, which is completely fine. Anyway, so my energy and feelings around this is like this. Like, I'm kind of laughing and stuff because it was just such an interesting thing to have these men like giving me all these compliments and stuff. And I know that it's because of the way that I'm carrying myself now. And I'm really just like proud of me for really holding my feminine energy in that experience and for it to be reflected. And so appreciative of me. And it really showed me the impact of things like being a high value woman or calling in men who are of your caliber, let's say, or your standards. And standards are not a bad thing. They are not a judgy thing. They are boundaries that you have about the treatment that you will accept, the kind of lifestyle that you want to live, and different things like that, you know, the things that make you uniquely feel safe and loved and all those things. It really showed me that if you do the work within yourself, you will attract the right kind of men and you will repel the men that are not suited to you. Quite a few guys there were just, they seemed like a little bit socially awkward, a little bit nervous and stuff. But I mean, nerves are okay. I was nervous. Everybody's, nervous. The compliments are appreciated. But it's just such an interesting experience. So I had these conversations with men and that reflection. And then by the end of the night, I was, being pursued by and talking to the most, in my opinion, the most masculine man there, the man that had the most actually embodied masculine energy. And again, I just note that to reflect what can happen. It was beautiful. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Because we were doing the rounds, right? And then along comes this guy who used to live with my ex-partner. And I was like, oh my goodness, this person's here. And it was like a little bit of a trigger, right? Like, oh my gosh, like a reminder of that relationship and that ex-partner. And I was like, I really don't need this right now. Like, as I'm putting my foot in the door to like get out there and dating. It was just so interesting that I manifested that. And he sits down and I think he's a little bit oblivious about the very sort of negative nature of the breakup that I had. And he just started talking to me about my ex a little bit and telling me some information about him where, we were in a no contact thing, so I didn't know anything. And I was just like, I was just like assaulted by this like kind of energy and topic of my ex while I'm sitting here trying to like, be in my best feminine self for this dating event. And I don't know, after he said that stuff, I didn't really hear anything else he said for that round. I was just like, okay, like, all right. And I just really kind of wanted him to move on because I wanted to stop talking about it. And then he did, and it was fine. But that was an interesting manifestation. And then later, that same man came up to me just to chat, I think. And I can't remember how we even got there, but he was saying, like, he said to me, like, Beck, you don't believe in true love, do you? Love at first sight. He said, you're too mature for that, aren't you? You're too mature for that. He kept saying that. And I was like, what? I was like, don't come around here and like talk about my ex and like diss true love at this dating event. Like, come on, like social cues, like what the hell? And I was like, what the hell? I just felt a bit like flabbergasted. And I said to him, no, I do believe in true love. And he was like, really, really? And I was like, yes. And I said, I mean, I believe that it can happen quite quickly, or it can take time to develop. And that's, love at first sight. I actually believe in that, and that it can take time to develop. And he was like, yeah, I don't know about that. And then he was talking about something else. And then eventually that conversation ended. But like, I was just like out here trying to just like vibe myself, and then there's like this dissing of true love and like my ex stuff, and I was like, okay, Beck, just like everything's fine. It's alchemy. You know what it is, everyone? It's alchemy. Like the things that you manifest and reflect to you in your experience. So on the one hand, I'm having like these really beautiful reflections of my growth and like my beauty, my inner and outer beauty, and all these things. And my feminine energy and feminine draw as well. On the other hand, like what perhaps there's something more to process within that, and that's why that manifested. Or maybe the universe is asking me, do you really believe in true love? Do you really? So that I hold that boundary, which is really, really cool. And that's actually some wisdom that one of my sisters said to me recently in conversation, that the universe kind of tests you. And I was like, oh, I didn't really think about it like that, but it makes sense. Tests you with your manifestations and what you truly desire. And it's true, because I also had a conversation with another man there who I'd never really heard a man talk about this or ask this. And one of his questions in our conversation, our little round, to me was, he said, how important do you think money is in a relationship? And I was like, wow, I've never had a man, like even male friends or anyone, talk to me about or ask me about that. Me and my girlfriends have been talking about that a lot. And I said to him, and so I had to like stand in my truth in that moment, as with all of them. But I said to him, I believe that it's really important to have a healthy relationship with money, and that it can affect the relationship if there isn't enough stability and there's survival mode stuff going on. So you can't grow and nurture each other and nurture the relationship. It's not the correct conditions. And he was like, yeah. And he said, oh, that'd be a red flag if you said it wasn't important. And I was like, cool. So it's really nice. Also, reflection, just to know if that guy was a microcosm of a macrocosmic truth, that there are gentlemen out there who are, taking responsibility for and aware of the dynamic that money plays within their own life, but also within the relationship, and if you're going to build a future together with someone and stuff like that. And that is one of the things that I learned in my previous relationship, where we as women, we do need men to be in a certain level of stability in order to feel safety, in order to have the nurturing energy and conditions required for her feminine to flourish, and therefore for polarity, which is the dynamic of a masculine and feminine continuous back and forth, for that to maintain itself in a relationship. Because money means food on the table. It means like we are safe and protected. It's the equivalent of, you need a man who, like if we were out in tribes, who can like provide for you, who can go and hunt, and or forage or whatever they're doing. It's that simple. It's important. And yeah, obviously, if you're going to have a baby or something, he needs to be able to support both of you while you're on maternity leave. These are very real factors. So money is very important. That was a very interesting conversation. Another interesting dynamic that was playing out as well, and that I noticed within myself, was when we're in conversations with potential dates or men, and we notice that they are getting nervous and maybe they're acting or being a bit awkward, and we have this tendency, I noticed that myself in the past, I could have this tendency to try to fill the awkwardness and make him feel better by like, soothing or talking or something, because, and I thought it was just like, no one likes an awkward silence. It's a bit uncomfortable, right? But actually, when I was at this dating thing and I was being very mindful of my energy and I was intentionally sitting there in my feminine energy, when a man came along and he was a bit awkward and he probably could have used, like, from his perspective, he probably could have used some saving in the conversation. I chose intentionally to not engage like that and to not sort of participate in that. And the reason is that even though we might think, oh, I'm just being like a nice person and helping someone out who's nervous, women, we have a tendency to mother men. And when you mother men, you pull yourself out of the feminine drawing energy and you emasculate them. Even if they don't realize it, that's what you're doing. You are diminishing an opportunity for their masculine energy to actually rise. Because by me not mothering and not just being the nice girl and being like, oh, it's okay, haha, or like whatever I would have done in the past, he is called to rise past any fear that's there and called to lead the conversation. Because that's a big thing for me as well, is that part of embodying your feminine energy is that you shouldn't have to lead the conversation in the dating realm all the time. It is okay, of course, that women lead and choose the topic, or, you have a flow in a conversation. But if they are putting it on you, even unconsciously, because of nervousness or just whatever reason, and we will have that tendency to take that and go, okay, I'm going to lead the conversation. Now I'm in a bit of a masculine space because that's what the masculine does. Or I'm in a mothering energy as well. And so you are going to attract little boys if you mother a man. And this is just one little example of how that happens. And of course, as I said, we just think like, oh, I'm just being like a really nice person. No, you are pulling yourself out of your feminine energy, and that's going to vibrationally pull in a man that can match that and will really just simply repel the masculine polarity. You're going to repel a man that is in his masculine. So I just chose not to engage with that. And then what happened was he got to get through his fear for a minute, and then he talked and continued talking. So he actually was invited to rise more fully in himself and in his masculine and keep leading, and he did. And that's the opportunity. And that's the opportunity that is missed when a woman emasculates a man by mothering him. Men don't need us to save them in any way. They don't need mothering. And there is a difference between mothering and nurturing someone. Women, certainly in the feminine and in a partner relationship or dating, we are there to provide a kind of radiance and a kind of beautiful nurturing energy. There's a difference between support and mothering, which is let me do it for you. Because basically it's emasculating because I don't trust in your power enough to find your own way. And men's energy doesn't respond to that. It responds to, I believe in you, I trust in you, encouraging their leadership, empowering through just encouragement and positive belief in them and faith in them. They are constantly invited to come into their leadership. And again, if you're listening to the audio, I was just having some green juice there. That's another thing that I noticed. And I believe that all of these things and all of the work that I have done on myself in the last 2.5 years is what allowed me to create a new experience for myself, but especially the work that I did through the breakup that I had as well. And so throughout the night, we were having these conversations and stuff, and there was one man there who we were actually having a really nice conversation, and then of course the round ended pretty quickly. It's just like a 2-minute thing. And then at the end, it was kind of like a just chill out and mingle time until, they shut down the bar or whatever they're doing. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to get a drink or something. And I was just standing there on my phone. And then he had the courage to approach me and say, I thought that we were having good conversation. Do you want to continue the conversation? Something about continuing the conversation. And I was like, yes, because when we ended, I was wondering if he was going to approach me, and he wasn't. And when the conversation ended, he also didn't give me his number or anything. So I was just like, oh, I thought that we had a connection, but I guess I was wrong, or I guess he's not feeling it or whatever. And then he talked with me, and this man was a lovely man, and he was so... There's a huge difference in the energy between a man that is embodying their masculine and or is simply being intentional with their energy versus men who are, and this is the same with women as well, everyone. It's not a judgment on men specifically, just my experience. When a man is in his embodied masculine, and again, they're not going to be perfect. They're going to have little like messes and stuff like me and my feminine, right? But when they are embodying it to a noticeable enough degree, let's say, when you are around them, you should feel an energy of a kind of like stability, a kind of just like they are here, they're in one place, like their energy is in one place. Ideally, you feel like a strong presence energy with you. In contrast, and to help explain, when men kind of aren't empowered in their masculine and they typically have a kind of leaky energy, when you are around them, you might feel like they're kind of like flirting with you a little bit, but then it's like that confusing kind of flirting where you're not actually sure. It's indirect. There's a lot of indirectness. There's a lot of indirect behavior and body language and stuff like that you might even just be unconsciously absorbing or noticing. And it just feels energetically that their energy is just kind of all over the place. And the clearest example is if you are in a connection with a man where you don't know if you're friends or if he likes you or if he's just a bit of a flirt, like the confusion. So I was really appreciative that the man that specifically approached me was one of these men who was really holding himself. And we had a great conversation about like personal development and coaching and I don't even know, like about life and my animals and just like cool things. And like he bought me a drink and his energy was very like, I am here. And when the energy would lean into like, I'm going to buy you a drink or I'm going to do this, there's an intentionality about it. Okay, there's a feeling the energy coming at you and then it comes back, because that's what respect is. Respect is not having a icky, flirty, or aka messy energy with someone. And equally, I would not do this to a man. And that's why when I was doing the dating rounds and I was really holding myself in my feminine energy, a lot of them probably didn't feel me coming towards them and that guy said, I can't feel your energy. I'm like, well, because I'm not attracted to you and I'm not going to just flirt with everybody, I personally, like, I'm still a bit reserved when I was talking with this safe man, because I was like, well, I'll see how it goes and everything like that. And I did have a few moments of like leaning in to it as well to let him know that I'm enjoying our conversation. But as with any kind of first date, like talking to an absolute stranger, it's good to be mindful of your energy, to be very mindful. And yeah, he was just so nice and just like had depth and just like talking, and he gave me his jacket and bought me a drink and said he got distracted for a minute and then he was like, sorry, I'm here, I'm present with you. And it was just a breath of fresh air. Oh my God, it was such a breath of fresh air after, like, obviously long term after my previous relationship and everything, but also even that evening, a lot of the men, from my psychic observation, some of them felt, I sense that they seemed to be scared or nervous or intimidated. And I don't know if that was like because of me being like, they're intimidated by me and they think that they don't have a chance or whatever their worth things are telling them. Or they're just nervous about the whole night, you know, and talking to women or whatever. And just like this energy of just like, blah, like this, which doesn't make a woman feel safe. It doesn't make a nervous system of a woman feel safe. And just to receive that, I was so grateful for that nourishment and for that positive experience. And yeah, it was just great. Like, there was a confusing thing where he still wasn't asking for my number, and I was like, "Are you gonna ask for my number?" So then at the end of the night, I was just like, well, I'll just, and I did. And he very willingly gave me his number. So that was nice. Unfortunately, however, it wasn't a match, even though I would have liked to explore the connection more, due to some particular incompatibilities that I won't go into. But, you know, I think we're probably gonna be friends, made a friend, and that's really nice. Yeah. And so this all for me was a testament to what happens when you really do the work and you change your energy. And it was also too really important. On the drive home, I was thinking to myself, wow, I remember how I used to, like in the past, I would have got really excited about this behavior. I'm very appreciative of that, as you can see, very appreciative of that. But what I wanted to share with you ladies is that kind of treatment where there's a respect and containment of the energy, where you feel safe, where the man is mostly leading, where, you know, you are just being respected. He also wasn't like very touchy as well, but he was very complimentary, and that was his flirt, I think. And, you know, I'm sure if he was going to be touchy, he would have been a man who was intentional about it, and not just, because this is another thing too, just a little side rant here, is that when men are not embodied in their holy masculine, they have a unconscious, and this is like a societal issue that I could talk about in a larger way. But there seems to be this thing of like touching women in a way that you wouldn't a man that you don't know. Like, have you ever had, hello ladies, have you ever had, you're in a club or a restaurant or somewhere, and maybe it's not even that crowded, maybe it is, doesn't seem to matter, that a guy is walking past you and he puts his hand on your lower back and it's like just a movement of getting past. But it's interesting how he didn't really do that for the men that he had to walk past, just the women. You know, or a man that you've first met and he kisses you on the cheek to say hello because you are a woman. That's why. And he doesn't kiss the men on the cheek. There are all these little things that seems to be this ingrained in the patriarchy that just makes me kind of mad, that I could go on about in another video. But so when I'm sitting at this dating event where we're having these 2-minute conversations with people that you don't know, and again, it's okay to flirt, but I can tell the difference when someone is intentionally flirting with you. And if you flirt with someone, there better be follow through. Because if this is what I'm talking about, if you're flirted with and there's no actual real like intention of pursuing this person, or there's no actual real interest, which is so often women experience this as kind of being an object for men to just sort of flirt with or touch, you know, that like when I was sitting there, they're like touching my arm and stuff like that. One guy was really like way too touchy. And again, it's fine if they were intentionally flirting with me, but then I really don't think he was, and he got up and he didn't leave me his number or anything like that. So my point is that this person who I was having a nice time with, he really wasn't very touchy at all, and I really appreciated that. But you don't have to touch to feel connected. I still felt very connected to him, and I felt him with me in that, and I felt respected by the lack of this fucking I'm gonna touch a woman because she's a woman. This is a whole other rant, you guys. You can feel my emotions about this a little bit because it's an objectification that women live through and we just endure, and I'm very done with it. So yes. So another thing that I wanted to talk about though, yes, okay, back to my point here, is that when a man treats you really beautifully, like this man did, it shouldn't be an exciting big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal. Why is there for a lot of us, me in the past, there's this little girl inside who's like, oh my God, he texted me good morning, or oh my God, he brought me flowers, or oh my God, he pulled out my chair, oh my God, he didn't messily flirt with me in a messy, icky way. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It shouldn't be amazing. That is the absolute bare minimum of quality treatment that you and every woman deserve. And that's what I was thinking to myself in the car. I was like, this is a really nice experience, and this is the minimum of the standard. And that doesn't mean to minimize the gift of the whole thing and of who that being was being with me. And it could be in a future relationship. Oh my goodness. It doesn't minimize it or take away from it. But women need to understand that this level of respect and the masculine positioning and the ability for you to be in your feminine is the absolute bare minimum, and it better be the bare minimum of your most bare minimum standards. Okay? Because you are worthy of that. You are absolutely worthy of that. And we have been conditioned and trained to accept less than what we deserve. I'm going to say that again. You have been conditioned and trained to accept less than what you deserve. We have been trained to be like the nice girl and to be appeasing to men and to, not want for too much and just be grateful for scraps and like all these different things. No more. So I know for me that when I say to myself, this is the bare minimum that I expect to be treated, it shows. And I really feel like the energy that I was getting from the men there of like, you're the most elegant woman here, like all these things, I think that in part amplifies or provides evidence for my point, that when you intentionally have a standard and you present yourself as well, it's just naturally presented because you're embodying it. But if you present yourself as a high value woman, you will attract the right man. And I heard this statement once from a kind of relationship coach person, social media, and she said, I think she said something like, you will know that you're a high value woman. You will know that you are a high value woman if you walk into a room and you see, the most attractive or most quote unquote high value man there, and by the end of the night he's talking to you. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, that's a bit like whatever. And there definitely is nuances to that, but I just feel like that's pretty much what happened when I went to this dating event. So it just really goes to show that you are in control of your vibrational set point. You are in control of your dating experience more than you think that you are. And when you approach something from your true power, you can create anything that you desire, and you can attract a man that you desire. And for women, I think a huge part of it is being very intentional about being in a feminine energy. You have to commit to a practice of being in your feminine energy. And for me, high value dating or high value women as well comes down even into the way that I dress, the way that as the guy noticed my posture, all of those things. I have really committed to that, partially and mostly because it's just when you raise your standards and you love yourself more, you love yourself so much more, and you own yourself and you are in your power, you will just naturally treat yourself with loving respect. So you will eat well and go to the gym so you'll get a hot body, you will hold yourself in a more upright position. You'll have better posture, simply because you feel better within and you feel more powerful. you will convey your feminine energy and your feminine radiance, because you will simply be more naturally in your feminine essence and radiance, because you're living from your heart and you're living from your naturalness and your power. It's just going to be coming off you and probably as well, if you've dissolved shame and you've got your womb portals quite open as well. I have seen some crazy magic happen, you guys, with when ladies are doing womb magic. Myself and another client, I will bring this up just because it's a pretty magical story. So again, my point here is to preface is that your energy, your energetic embodiment is going to really contribute to, if not completely determine, the dating experience and relationship experiences that you have. If you are a magical or spiritual woman who enjoys the word magic, I really want to invite you to check out the Daughters of Eden Holy Temple for Divine Feminine Light. This is a beautiful sisterhood community, and it is the place to learn how to do magic within your body to create natural ascension processes, healing, creation, manifestation, birthing, and just like beautiful, sexy, magical things that I can't even describe to you in words. To actually do that together with sisters in ritual, to learn the actual practices. In this temple, we have a monthly women's circle, a monthly women's class of magic and physical training to get you to learn how to do this, because I know so many women who want to live from their feminine, who want to actually activate that feminine energy and really understand, like, what does it mean to live from my womb? What does it mean to actually be magical? And we first need to actually do the practices. And so I've created a holy space of sisterhood for us to come together and do that. So not only do you have the monthly women's circle, which is great to connect with sisters, because just being around each other nurtures our energy. You also have the magic class, as I said. You also have a beautiful online community container for all of us to keep connecting and celebrate your wins, your growth, your sadness. If you need space for your emotions, this is the place. All of that. And we also have every 3 months a proper feminine rite, RITE, which is something that the Holy Sisterhoods of Mary, the Holy Sister of the Rose, have asked me to bring back into your remembrance, to our collective remembrance. This is a deep ritual practice for women only, and it creates really deep magic within ourselves and the collective. So I would love to have you there. You can check it out at my website or DM me on Instagram at the Becc Sahasrara. And so I had a really interesting experience when I had been doing a lot of womb work, and I had been really bringing the golden nectar and honey into my womb, which sheds shame and is such a powerful process, you guys, that we do in the sisterhood, in the temple, the Daughters of Eden temple, or in mentorships with me. And I started like getting men asking me out or flirting with me, like in this really tight, like consecutive period when I was doing it. Like it was all of a sudden, it was only when I was doing these practices quite consistently, it was suddenly that there were multiple men who wanted to, scope me out or ask me out. And I even actually got stopped in the street by these two guys, like a truck or whatever, which is not something that has happened for like a long time. And then also at that time when I was with my partner and I got to his house, because when that happened, I was actually walking to his house. He was like, "Oh my gosh, you look beautiful. You look radiant." And I was like, "What is going on?" And I knew it was big. My spirit guides told me, I asked spirit, as I do, what is going on energetically? Why is this happening? And they said, because you are going through your Venus initiations. And I was like, oh, okay, wow. And that men are attracted to that, even unconsciously. You will become more magnetic. And this also happened to a client as well, who we had just done one of these very deep golden womb healing practices. And she suddenly, which she had not had at all since it was one of the things we're working on, suddenly there were like four or five different guys in like the same weekend that tried to ask for her phone number or tried to flirt with her or like whatever. And she was like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "I think I know." I think it's because of this. And then that whole experience was how I learned that I actually have to I do have to advise and warn women that this can happen if we do work one-on-one, particularly, or in the temple school, that you will have different experiences with men, and there's some mindfulness that needs to go into that. Because we're very powerful women. We're very beautiful, sexy creatures, and we're very filled with like golden honey that men desire. They desire that. They want that within themselves. And it's a draw, and it's a magnetism, and it's magical. So that was really beautiful. And before we go, there is a couple more things that I wanted to share with you. I hope that you are finding so much value in this. This is what I'm saying, is I found so much value in that experience. I was just like, what? Learning so much. Got to share it with my people on my podcast. And if any of the guys are listening to this, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being a unknowing participant in my healing journey, which we all are for each other. And I hope that I could be for you. So another thing that I wanted to touch on, I'm just looking down at my notes here for a moment, I guess I did touch on this a little bit, but I want to reiterate. It is really important and good for you as a woman to have standards about the quality of men or relationship that are around you. And I don't just mean in a romantic relationship, because even within a friendship, what we are talking about is your relationship with the masculine. And that's going to reflect your relationship with your own inner masculine and your past relationships as well, which is actually influencing your own inner relationship with your inner masculine. And I should note too that I believe also, and I know that I got to this place because especially when I ended that previous relationship, I had to do that because my inner king, my inner masculine, was protecting me and was not happy with the way that I was being treated. And it is not until you have that inner masculine that is holding the standards and the boundaries and everything, and being decisive about that for you, that your queen can truly emerge, will feel safe enough to flourish. And so that is what I moved through. And when you do that and you're building that up in yourself, you need the relationships around you, the masculine energy around you, to nurture that. And I know for me in the past, I'd still been participating in friendships where the masculine was not healthy. And every time I'm around that person, I feel a kind of unconscious like unsafety. Or on the surface, ladies, it may just feel like you are feeling drained. Okay, that is what it feels like on the surface when you are around men who are in their feminine, or their unhealthy feminine. I mean, unhealthy feminine, and they're staying there too long and everything. You will, and if you're participating in it energetically, you will feel drained. And you may also feel confusion, and you may also feel uncertainty and unsafety. It's important to differentiate that perhaps, you have your own triggers that are activating that perspective within you. Not every man that you feel unsafe around is actually being unsafe or in their feminine. That's what a trigger is. It's a projection. So you've got to be mindful for your projections. But if you're not projecting, it's going to be like, I feel really drained around this person and I don't know why. Or I feel kind of like weird and confused around this person and I don't know why. So it's really important for women, especially, I should add, especially in the dating realm, you want to have a healthy inner masculine stabilized and established within you so that you can attract the right kind of masculine energy, and or also so that you can utilize your inner king to keep you safe, to lead, to protect you when you need it, if you need it. Because another thing that going on this one night adventure reminded me of was, so I was there and I had a mocktail, because you guys, I don't drink alcohol. I haven't drunk alcohol for like 12 years or something. But I love a mocktail. And they had this mocktail that actually literally tasted like bubble gum. It was so good. And I had 3 and I was like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. I forgot. I just sort of like mentally forgot that like sugar is in liquids, and yeah, it's not good. But I do partake in the mocktails, and it makes me feel fancy as well. I love to feel fancy and luxurious. So so I was having a mocktail and I was just standing there. And I put it down sort of on the table behind me where my jacket and stuff was. And I kept talking to these people. And then after just like 30 seconds or a minute, I looked down at my drink and I was like, wait. And I picked it up again because I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that you shouldn't put your drink down in like a club or a bar or something, that you should be able to know and see where your drink is. It was behind me, because in that moment, like this would be a really fucked up scenario and unlikely to happen at this event. But my point is that when you look away like that, that is when somebody can pop something in there. And it got me thinking about how we as women have to really own and recognize another reason that we have really high, beautiful, actually shouldn't even be high, but we have standards and we have to have a quality inner masculine capacity, is the safety element of dating. Okay, the dating experience is very different for women than it is for men. Typically, so generalizing, and typically, men don't have to worry about putting their drink down because somebody might rape them. They don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about going on a date with a girl and worry that they're going to overpower them and kidnap them. That is not something that they mostly will ever experience. They can go out with their drink or whatever and feel completely safe. They can go out on a date and feel mostly safe. They'll feel nervous. There's obviously things that can happen, and there are toxic women out there, might fucking steal guys' shit. I've heard stuff about that. But like, your physical safety is typically not threatened. And so as a woman, you have to understand that when you are in the dating and you go out to meet a stranger, you are taking a risk. And I desire for men to recognize the risk that women are taking and the bravery that women are embodying when they go and meet you for a coffee and they don't even know you. Okay? They are just trusting that this is not the time that they get kidnapped and killed. Okay? How amazing are women for even going out the door at all, basically? And so for women, we have to really also value our presence and value and take into consideration, I'm not just going to go out and meet with like heaps of guys that like they seem okay, but I'm not that interested in them. If I'm going to take the risk of meeting with somebody, it's because I have to feel like there is a significant worthwhileness to taking that risk. Okay, because I love myself. And the point behind all of that, it's because I love her. 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 I'm not going to put her in danger. And this is what your inner king does. He thinks about all these things and he's like, I'm not going to put her in danger. I'm going to keep her safe. I'm going to protect her. I'm going to let her be free and live her life. But I'm going to be mindful and I'm going to be here. And also your inner king should operate in the way that you desire your partner to operate. Okay. Your future partner, to how you would like them to protect you, to serve you, to nurture you, and all of that. So that is something that's really important. I'm just looking down my notes here, because men, they don't live with this experience, but we do, and I know that you know what I mean. And women are intuitive, particularly because we're the feminine and we're connected to our emotions and all of that, but also because we have the wolf within, and the wolf within is your instinct. Okay, she is your instinct, and she is not able to be free and powerful and wielding herself in your life. Also, ladies, if you are busy being a nice girl, if you are just going on dates with men just to like make them feel better because they asked, if you're mothering men in any way, all of that. Do you see how if you placate men by being a nice girl, you are going to expose yourself to unsafe, unhealthy masculine men? Like men who are in their unhealthy masculine, who are in their distorted feminine. Because that barrier of, I don't need to be nice, I just need to trust myself and be in truth and be authentic, that is the wolf, that is your inner king as well, that is being dismissed by you when you're being nice. And you got to stop. You got to stop if you want to be safe. You got to stop if you want to have healthy, beautiful relationships. And two, as well, to that note, I want to say too that a lot of women, especially very beautiful women, they probably experience men saying things to them like, oh, you're so intimidating. I'm so intimidated by you. I know that I've had that a lot in the past. And that may not just be because of a certain beauty or anything like that, for whatever reason. But sometimes men will say this in a way that they're trying to compliment you, or it's sort of intended as a compliment. But guess what, ladies? This is not a compliment. And what it does, though, it does sort of feel like that, and it can feed your ego, right? Your ego is like, oh, I'm so beautiful or so like magnificent or whatever, that they're intimidated by me. But trust me, you do not want to be with a man who is intimidated by you. Because what happens for those girls and those men is that they are wooed by that, and they enjoy that. And if you've got someone that likes you more than you like them, it can feel good to the ego. Then they get into a relationship, and then the man is living in this constant insecurity. And after a time, okay, A, that's not going to be sexy at all. B, he is going to be in trigger land. He's going to be in triggers around insecurity. And that's, of course, as always in relationships, going to come up through projections and conflicts and things like that. You don't want your man to be triggered by you being you, right? Oh, I'm so intimidated by you because you're so smart, or you're so beautiful, or so like whatever his thing is. Just you existing is going to be triggering to him. And that leads you to the toxicity that is there that he hasn't healed. And to the extreme, to the extreme version of it, narcissistic men or abusive people, there is a getting off on bringing down a very beautiful or successful or whatever, typically considered intimidating woman. They want to bring her down because if I can bring her down, then I feel better inside. It boosts his ego to do that. And that's to the extreme, a core thing of narcissists. And this is how a lot of women end up in a narcissistic relationship, which is not always like extremely abusive. It can be very subtle. Like he's subtly putting you down. He's subtly, mistreating you, subtly disrespecting you. That is one of the things that my ex-partner was doing, kind of subtly disrespecting me, amongst lots of other things. And of course, that's added confusion by the fact that they are simultaneously probably doing good things for you and, treating you like good at times. So you have to have your wolf activated. You have to have your inner king activated. And this looks like many different self-development pathways that you need to go down, sister. But one of them is just stop being the nice girl. Just be in truth. Just be authentic. And you're going to be, that's the closeness with your intuition. You're going to be in the doorway of your intuition. And your intuition will guide you. Your intuition will inform your king. And you will make decisions from a healthy, loving place. But yeah, okay. So we've talked about being high value, standards, instinct, all these beautiful things. And at the end of the day, the dating experience is supposed to be, for me anyway, my observation right now, and I'll keep you guys posted. My observation is that it's a beautiful dance of energies, and any experience that I have in that, I get to utilize that to cultivate more of myself, and I get to add value to myself and build myself up. And I get to, congratulate myself on positive reflections, but know that they don't mean anything except for the way that I feel about myself, which is wonderful and blessed. And yeah, so the dating experience is a place to play, to explore where your feminine energy is, where your masculine energy is. What kind of men are you attracting? What are your standards? Who do you actually want? Why? What are your motivations for that? And I also want to let you all know that I am going to have a special offer around spiritual dating and being a high value woman very soon as well. So keep your eye out for that. If it is ready by the time I post this, I will drop it in the information below. If it isn't, just please keep reaching out. Please follow me on Instagram at the Becc Sahasrara. Send me a DM if this impacted you, if this gave you value. Leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Let me know what your experience has been. How do you feel about like the high value terms? I kind of love them. It invites you to be your best self. That's what it does. Yeah. And for any inquiries about mentorship one-on-one, which I would love to have you, Temple Sisterhood, I would love to have you. Do reach out to me on my website, and have a beautiful day.